What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hard Truth Canada. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because this channel is where we expose the political circus this country has become. And if you have been here from the beginning with me, thank you. You're an absolute legend. Our original goal this month was to hit 600 subscribers. But guess what? We've already hit that target and crushed it all the way to 704. So if you're one of the ones who subscribed recently or have subscribed already, thanks again because I am honored. Without your support, by watching, subscribing, commenting on these videos, I'd feel pretty darn isolated in my perspective of Canada. So truly, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Today's video is a beast. We're diving into 7 major political stories shaping Canada right now. We go from all the way from Alberta's Bill 54 to Mark Carney not having a budget to the Nakba bill that is a political distraction.
It shows the duplicity of settler colonialism and European imperialism.
What's his name? Doug Ford comes out with a $204 billion budget plan.
Imposed by the United States have been a wake-up call for Canadians.
The province is tabling a $232 billion budget.
Big numbers, but small vision. And then, in New Brunswick, we have Holt's first outing.
We have a new and stable federal government in place. They have now named a clear team of people who will be leading the negotiations with the U.S.
And all the way back in BC, we got David Eby and his spin show.
How will you measure success from this trip? Will there be, in essence, accounting to say, look, we went to Asia, we spent this much money to do it, and in turn, we came back with these opportunities for British Columbians?
And to sum it all up, we have the Western Premiers meeting. Finally, guys, there is some hope. Now, let's get into it. I say we start in Alberta with Bill 54, the Election Statutes Amendment Act. Sounds simple, dry, right? But don't let the boring title fool you. This is a serious overhaul of how elections work in Alberta. Danielle Smith's government says it's about transparency and trust. And honestly, it's a much needed step in Alberta's future.
With Bill 54, this piece of legislation was about protecting democracy, delivers fair and open elections, and restores confidence in votes. It's also about giving Albertans more direct say in government. This is something that we did here through our continuous consultation throughout the province on multiple issues, and this came up, was the thresholds and making sure that we are responsive, that there is mechanisms for the people of Alberta to be heard. And I think we've responded with Bill 54 and with all the 19 pieces of legislation in those calls for action.
For way too long, we've let elections be open to all kinds of third-party interference, from activist-funded campaigns and voters slipping through without ID. Bill 54 reins that in. It says, if you want to vote, you need to prove who you are. If you want to campaign, you need to follow the rules. That is not voter suppression. That is voter protection.
It's a large bill. There's a lot of pieces of that legislation. It's not just about referendums. There is about making sure that elections are transparent and they're fair. And so I expect any time that you talk about elections and procedure that people will be upset because it is change. And change is coming. But I think it's change that is responsive to the requests that we've had. The most important thing we can do as a government is to ensure confidence in election results. And that's what I think this piece of legislation does, is it delivers fair and open elections, but it also makes sure that when the results come in, the ballots are counted by hand with scrutineers in person, which I have done myself in previous elections. I've been a scrutineer, to making sure that when those results come in, that Albertans feel that whether late the results or not, they're confident that that is how people across the province voted. And that's what this bill does.
Mr. Chair, when the NDP brought forward their Bill 1 banning corporate and union donations, they opened the door to PACs. The problem with that is that there was no financial oversight whatsoever in what these PACs were receiving, who they were receiving the money from, or what they were doing with it. Bill 54 puts an end to that, Mr. Chair. It requires appropriate accountability. It requires corporate and union donations and those receiving them to provide full oversight and transparency so that people can see who is donating to whichever particular candidate is receiving those funds, and a breakdown of where that money is coming from. This closes the NDP dark money door, and it allows for financial oversight.
Meanwhile, CBC and the critics are calling it Republican style or anti-democratic. Come on, give me a bloody break. Danielle Smith is doing what the federal government refuses to do: defend the integrity of our democratic process. And if the NDP has a problem with that, well, you guys don't really have a party. And maybe they should ask why they need to have loopholes to win.
The relationship between at least one province and Ottawa is strained. Alberta is considering the idea of sovereignty while everyone else is talking about Team Canada.
I think we have to accept that there's a lot of anger out there. A lot of anger after the last election, a lot of anger at the way we've been treated for the last 10 years. And there's a lot of groups that are organizing to try to do something about it.
Alberta isn't playing games anymore, and Smith's government isn't afraid to tighten up the system, which is good. Thank God. The economy is shaking, housing is out of reach, and crime is still rising. So what's the Liberals' priority? A bill about Nakba, the Palestinian exodus in 1948.
Leaders, I'm proud to present the first model legislation in Canadian history that charts our own course as a nation on Palestinian human rights. We've called this legislation the Nakba Bill, or an act for Canada to stand for human rights and peace in the Middle East. As many Canadians may or may not know, May 15th is a day marked by millions of Palestinian people around the world to mark one of the most tragic events in modern history. I'm talking about the Great Catastrophe, or the Nakba, that took place decades ago when over 700,000 Palestinians were driven from their homes in Palestine in May 1948. But of course, as we stand here now, the Palestinians of the Gaza Strip are enduring what can only be seen as a second Nakba.
Look, human rights matters, but this bill isn't about helping Canadians. It's about identity politics. It's a virtue signaling wrapped in a press release while people are still trying to afford groceries. Mark Carney's government is trying to score points with activist circles.
Canadian complicity is present. Canadian government is complicit in the genocide of the people of Gaza. So we must not question what our role and influence here is. Because we have a role, we have a responsibility. All of the people here must understand the people of Gaza are being exterminated. We are the people too. We won't be silent. Stop the talking now.
I want to say a word about just how important it is for Canada to chart its own course here. As of right now, we Canadians know what it feels like to be facing threats from an aggressive neighbor that is actively attacking our sovereignty.
And let's be real. This is imported politics. It's divisive, and it's not our fight. And it's not what most Canadians are worried about today. But hey, if it's easier than fixing the housing crisis or balancing the budget, might as well, right?
Worrying new picture tonight of the financial burden Canadians are carrying and the anxiety it's creating as higher interest rates and the cost of living stretch budgets.
So once again, the Liberals use social wedges issues to distract from their failures. This time, it's foreign affairs dressed up as domestic justice. Meanwhile, real Canadians are wondering how the heck they're going to pay their rent.
Outrageous. It's hardly able to make ends meet with the price of food.
The cost of living, higher interest rates have stretched more than half of Canadians' budgets to near the breaking point.
The cost of living making it harder to get by and leaving little hope for the future.
We talk about possibly leaving Canada because why should we stay here? Just be overtaxed, underserviced, healthcare sucks, education sucks, government is bloated.
A new RBC poll found 59% of British Columbians feel financially paralyzed due to rising costs, 4% higher than the national average.
It's really gone downhill in the last 10 years, the quality of life, and I just, honestly, I feel bad for people every day, and I don't like having to feel bad every day.
The survey also shows 54% of British Columbians are spending all of their income on essential bills and expenses, and 57% doubt they'll ever get ahead.
So Mark Carney is Canada's new prime minister. The guy's got more titles than a Bond villain. He's ran the Bank of Canada, he's ran the Bank of England, and now he's running your paycheck. But hey, ask Mark Carney where the federal budget is, and you get crickets. Consultations, he says. Let's be honest, Carney isn't consulting anybody. He's calculating. He's delaying the budget.
Let me just talk about that visuals of that budget document, right? One of the things Carney campaigned on was change. One of the things the people around Carney and Carney himself recognizes we have to look different than the Trudeau guys. I've been here on Parliament Hill since 2005, and we've been inside that cabinet room 2 or 3 times since Carney's. I've never been inside the cabinet room. Like, it just was not a place.
So you get to go in there now.
Yeah, we've been invited in to watch this whole thing. So there's a visual there that whatever the content is, and people can criticize it for looking maybe too Republican or something, but it's, I think, an important way that the Carney administration is trying to say, we're doing things and it's going to look a bit different. So I just sort of make that sort of, comment about that. On the budget thing, I'd just like to see more explanation why it's impossible to present the plan that you just ran around the country saying you had. You had a plan, sir. I'm the guy with the plan. Candidate Carney said, and now PM Carney doesn't want to present that plan. Speech from the throne is a bit of a blueprint, but the budget is an actual plan.
Delaying the budget lets him dodge accountability and avoid early backlash. And by the time Canadians realize what he's planned, it'll be too late.
But there will be a budget in the fall.
Why not present Canadians with a budget at the very first opportunity?
Well, this is in fact based on my economic experience. There is not much value in my judgment, and it's considered judgment, and it's judgment based on experience, that there is not much value in trying to rush through a budget in a very narrow window, 3 weeks, with a new cabinet, effectively a new finance minister, just reappointed, but a new finance minister, rush that through.
Imagine if Pierre Poilievre took 8 months to drop a budget, they'd have him crucified by now. But Carney, he gets a free pass from the press because maybe he paid them off?
But there will be a budget in the fall.
Over in Ontario, we got Doug Ford's government just dropped the $204 billion budget. And it's a classic Ford budget. Splashy numbers, not much for substance.
First and foremost, Madam Speaker, is the work our government must do to defend our economy from the immediate impacts of tariffs. These are the measures needed to protect jobs and job creators alike by providing them with certainty at a time when uncertainty threatens their well-being. Like the $11 billion that we are rolling out as direct support to help our most impacted businesses and their workers. Through the new Trade Impacted Communities Fund, we will provide $40 million in tailored, flexible grants to help communities respond to disruptions in their local industries. Also working to deliver on the Hazel-McCallion LRT, and we're making it easier and faster for people to get where they need to go by expanding and building better GO train and bus service. Madam Speaker, from cranes to cement trucks, Ontario is building the most energetic and vibrant economy in the G7. You cannot make record investments in healthcare like we have without a responsible plan. And thanks to our powerful balance sheet, we have made significant strides towards pushing our healthcare system to the forefront of excellence. creating and expanding over 305 primary care teams, including more than $235 million this year alone for 80 additional teams and to connect 300,000 more people. We are also delivering on the construction of new hospital infrastructure, like the Campbellford Memorial Hospital and the Aurelia Soldiers Memorial Hospital, to serve our growing communities.
They talked about healthcare investments, infrastructure, and affordability. But hey, all light on the details. No real plan, no targets, just vague commitments.
Families are anxious about making ends meet, anxious about their jobs, anxious about their savings. We get it, Madam Speaker. We have done a lot since 2018, never raising a tax for Ontario people and businesses. And under Premier Ford, we are taking the leadership one step further. Madam Speaker, I'm proud to affirm that, starting with the current provincial gas tax cut that would have ended in June, we propose to make it permanent.
The Ford government loves headlines. But what Ontarians need is execution. Timelines, deliverables, not another promise buried in red tape. Until that happens, it's just another example of big spending with little return.
Premier, thank you for your leadership.
Premier Susan Holt finally comes out, and she's handled herself well. Calm, clear, polite. But beyond that, not much.
Premier, making sure to mute your microphone.
Thank you very much. Afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start by flagging that this will be the last of the weekly tariff addresses, but we are looking for your feedback and input on best ways for us to engage and communicate with you going forward. And that extends to the media as well as to the New Brunswickers who might be both following along live or after the fact. We would welcome your input on ways that we can make sure that you are up to speed on what's happening in New Brunswick, that your questions are getting answered. The reasons why we've chosen to make this the last of our tariff updates is because the tariff situation has somewhat stabilized. We have a new and stable federal government in place. They have now named a clear team of people who will be leading the negotiations with the U.S. and the work to remove the barriers to trade that have been put in place by the president.
Biggest transformation of the global trading system since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
She leaned on buzzwords like collaboration, innovation, which is a line for what? But if you're looking for a vision or bold reform, it wasn't there.
Our team will be sending a delegation to Ottawa in very short order to make clear face-to-face the priorities of our province, the uniqueness of our province, and our desire for a strong partnership with the federal government as we seek to advance opportunities for collaboration, for nation building, and for growth. We're going to be looking for ACOA to be a partner with us in the expansion of our modular housing industry, the expansion of our ports as critical elements of trade infrastructure, the support to businesses in New Brunswick, both those who are trade and tariff impacted, as well as those who are looking to grow and become more competitive and more productive in their adoption of new technology and automation solutions, and in the expansion of their sales.
New Brunswickers are ready for a shakeup. Whether Holt can deliver it or just manage the status quo, time will tell.
So we think that the level of threat that prompted us to provide regular and consistent communications to New Brunswickers has diminished.
David Eby got up for another BC press conference, flanked by Agriculture Minister Pam Alexis, and delivered a speech full of soft language and hard spin.
Of 13 were out on the high seas for more than 60 days, fishing for sablefish. Bob is a leader in sustainability around sablefish, and he is involved with Department of Fisheries and Oceans doing audits of the stock, ensuring protection and advocating for a sustainable sablefish industry here in British Columbia off our coast. 98% of this shipment is going direct to Asia. It's going to Japan. 2% will stay here in Victoria for local connoisseurs. and it's a real demonstration of the connection and the opportunity that British Columbians have with markets around the world. You know, as we're under attack by the president of our largest trading partner, our relationship with overseas markets, the opportunity to expand those markets and diversify markets away from the United States is more important than ever, and that's what we're going to do.
In this really difficult economic climate, it's crucial for BC businesses to focus on finding and developing new markets to mitigate risk and to ensure continued growth. And we want to be there to make sure that that is happening. Finest at Sea recently participated in EU Seafood Market Expo that was held in Barcelona. And I think they've told us they received loud and clear that EU and Japanese buyers are extremely interested in shifting their purchasing from the US to Canadian products. And that's really good news for us and companies like Finest at Sea. As the Premier said, we're watching 300,000 pounds of sablefish come in on this amazing boat, fresh from the water.
What is the exact measurement by which you will measure success? So, for example, trade with Japan represents about 10% of BC's overall trade. Do you have a specific number in place by, say, 5 years from now, we'll be at 15%, or perhaps even larger? Can you give us a specific metric by which you will measure the success of this trade mission?
So when I was first sworn in, one of the first piece of work we did was to go overseas to visit with overseas trading partners. We're a province and a country that often gets squeezed between two huge powers, between China and the United States. And diversification of markets has been a priority out of the gate for me. We've opened new trade offices, we've done trade missions. This is a continuation of that work. And what we've been measuring our success by is, are we seeing trade volumes go up? Are we seeing reduced dependence on the United States? And the answer to both questions is yes.
I just want to briefly push back to trade with Japan and South Korea actually dropped during the past year.
BC is dying. Housing is unaffordable, and healthcare workers are overwhelmed. And the government's answer? More strategy documents and talking points.
But let me be frank. I mean, there is a significant difference between our government's understanding of the tariff threat and the opposition's. In the early days of the president's actions targeting Canadians, the opposition told us that we should just comply with his demands. And then they said it was a stupid idea to take alcohol off the shelves and antagonize the president. Then they said that our response of building up our economy, of trying to get things done faster now, is not a good idea. Well, I mean, they have opposed every step of our tariff response. I'm not surprised that they oppose this too. They're talking about things like Western Canada should separate from the rest of the country. They're MLA from the Shuswap. They're talking about things like politicians need to be paid more money. This is a key platform advocated for by the leader of the opposition. They say that our renewable energy program, $6 billion of jobs and prosperity across this province, is unicorn farts. So they've got their own bizarre, conspiracy-laden perspectives about what we should be doing. For us, it's about building First Nations partnerships, strong economy, strong public services. It's not more complicated than that, and that's what these bills are about.
Mr. Ebby is great at sounding like he's doing something, but where's the action? Huh? Where's the measurable results? Until BC sees real reform, this is just another performance. But let's end this off with something hopeful. The Western Premiers meeting,
where there's been a lot of separation talk. I'm curious how that affects the strength of Western unity.
Thank you. I can start with that. So I've been sitting at the Premier's table for about a year and a half now, and I can say that I'm proud to be part of this table, and I'm really heartened to be part of this table, because when we come together, we are a united Team Canada working for the benefit of all Canadians. I've seen that at every meeting I've been at, and I know there's some discontent around the country, and that's always going to be the case. But I can assure everyone that our working relationship is solid, and we're all moving in the same direction for the benefit of Canada.
This is the moment for Western Canada, that we are going to be the engine that drives the Canadian economy for the foreseeable future. And that if we're going to realize our potential, if we're going to ensure that we realize the vision and the responsibility, frankly, to all Canadians that comes with that, series of opportunities that are in front of us right now, we have to work together. And there is no worse time for us to get dragged into conversations about splitting up the country or this kind of thing than right now when in front of us is all this amazing opportunity.
And I think the West has so much potential. I look to the corridor discussion we had that really could be nation building, where you see infrastructure come up through the Arctic Security Corridor to open up even more markets, whether you're looking at Asia or whether you're looking at Europe. But it's also about asserting your sovereignty over the Arctic. So there's a real moment that we're in as a country. But as Western premiers, I feel very fortunate to have the support of every one of us here to really bring forward a vision that sees our big role by bringing big projects that are bold and transformative, that really will benefit all Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
For once, Canadian politicians acted like adults.
Go ahead with a follow-up, please, Emily.
Yes, this question is for Premier Smith. There was 2 protests last night from Northwest Territories residents who are concerned about legislation in a province where they don't live and they have no influence over, but that legislation is going to affect them. I'm curious, what would you say to them about what that legislation says about Alberta's relationship with the Northwest Territories?
Well, if you're talking about the policies we put in place to protect children and their right to preserve choices to make as adults, so that we do not allow for puberty blockers or surgery for minors, but we do allow for both of those things for gender reassignment starting at age 16. So it shouldn't impact Northwest Territories residents at all. In fact, I think Northwest Territories has their own policies about how they would treat minors in those circumstances, but anyone who would require treatment in Alberta will continue to get it as normal.
Danielle Smith, David Eby, R.J. Simpson all sat at the same table, discussed energy corridors, Arctic trade routes, and nation-building projects. Sounds pretty conservative to me.
Some of the work around this table with respect to opening up the New West Partnership to not only all provinces but territories, to really rip down those any of those interprovincial hindrances or hurdles that we might have in free and open trade, procurement, as well as labor mobility across the nation. But I would say that this conversation around port-to-port access and really creating access for the European and Asian markets for a significant portion of Canadian goods, access to those European and Asian markets for mine products, for rare earth and critical minerals that are looking at, there's many entities looking at investments throughout northern Canada. The connecting through a corridor of some of our northwest ports with potential ports in Hudson Bay, and how you could build off that core piece of infrastructure to really add to our Arctic security, connecting maybe an Arctic port down the way, or even further connecting that core corridor infrastructure, that port-to-port connection out into areas in Eastern Canada as well. And, therein lies, I think, the opportunity for each of us as Canadians is, to work together to enhance the economic opportunities that we have through discussions just like what happened here today.
They talked about opening up ports, building infrastructure, and connecting the territories.
When you look at the mandate letter that was provided by the Prime Minister to his federal ministers, it's very much focused on building a strong economy on behalf of all Canadians. It's also very much focused on building new infrastructure at speeds not seen before, infrastructure to diversify our trading relationship and to become an energy superpower. And so it needs to be an all of the above approach when it comes to products. And I can't think of a more nation-building project than starting to connect ports in the northwestern portion of British Columbia in our nation to ports at Hudson Bay, and ultimately with the conversation around Arctic security. And credit to the three northern premiers, and in particular to Premier Akiago on the groundwork that he has done with respect to accessing potentially an Arctic port down the way as well. And so if we truly are looking to expand our economic prowess, become an energy superpower as a nation, it is going to have to include lithium, for example, from Saskatchewan, of which there was just an investment this week in a processing facility, the first of its kind in our province, and I believe across Canada. It's going to have to include the conversation around nuclear and Saskatchewan-based uranium and powering the world with that product. It's going to have to include, and if you think of the area between those two places, Hudson Bay and northern British Columbia, there is significant hydro capacity in that space as well, which provides opportunities to help Saskatchewan, Western Canada, and ultimately our nation become an energy superpower. But it's also going to have to include the conversation around oil and gas, which ultimately is a significant portion of the Canadian economy. And so as we move forward, if we truly are serious about increasing economic productivity in Canada, truly committed to as a nation and working alongside one another, subnational and national leaders together in achieving that status of being an energy superpower, it is going to have to be all of the products. And it is going to have to be a level effort on not only regulatory reform, but looking at truly nation-building projects like this port-to-port corridor that is going to connect our markets, our Canadian markets of Asia, as well as the European market. Can you imagine having a mine site in Nunavut that has access to either the European market, but also would have access to the Asian market just as simply with that type of a connective corridor? And so this is a generational opportunity, I would say, and a Canadian opportunity as we move forward. Now,
we can all work together in delivering this corridor. I know that Danielle's priority is to get heavy oil to Tidewater. She is very unambiguous about that. My priority is to get BC electricity to as many places as possible to help decarbonize and to drive our economy in British Columbia. Every one of these premiers has their own priorities, and we recognize in this moment, as Canadians, we've got to work together, and we've got to work together in a moment of crisis where we're being directly threatened by the leader of one of the most powerful countries in the world, the most powerful country in the world. And so we're all working together. We're finding ways to cooperate. Premier Smith is able to convince the federal government to build another pipeline through British Columbia or a private proponent. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, we know there needs to be this corridor. Well, in British Columbia, we have a pipeline that's publicly owned that was put through over the objections of British Columbia, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and it is not operating at capacity. If the urgency is to get product to Tidewater, then I would start there with the conversations with the federal government about ensuring that this publicly owned infrastructure is used to its full capacity. And that seems like a great place to start rather than opening up the pristine North Coast to tanker traffic. These are my personal feelings as the Premier of British Columbia. I know that Premier Smith has a different perspective about that, and that's okay. We're going to work together, and we're going to come to the ultimate destination of a stronger, united, sovereign Canada that stands on our own 2 feet. And it will be through difficult discussions around tables like this. And all of us are committed to working constructively together, and we will find that path forward.
Wait a minute. This is how it's supposed to work. Different provinces with different views, but share the same goal: a stronger, independent West. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? Drop a comment down below, hit like, and share this with somebody who needs to hear the truth. Thanks again for watching today's episode. We'll see you on the next one.